Hello and welcome to episode 111, I think. My notes say 112, but I don't believe my notes. I believe my inner me. And my inner me says it's 111. Frank, please fact check me. Welcome to the Noclip podcast. Your host here, Beef O'Brady. Delighted to be joined by Jeremy Jane.
Hello, thank you for welcoming me to the show.
That was very formal. Are you a fucking AI? What happened? Is Jeremy Mitchin off work? He's got like a little fucking chat PDF or whatever it is chatting me here.
Yeah, this is actually a hologram I generated last night because I wanted to take the day off. So any responses that feel like Chat GPT are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you who really wrote the Signalis video essay?
I'm not at liberty. Maybe there's another video coming about that.
Oh my God. Videos within videos. Frank Howley, what episode number are we?
112, as the Google Doc
I got
says.
it wrong.
Your inner notes were wrong, dude.
It's because the Jet one threw me off. The Jet one, which we did a couple of days ago. Go check that out. I'm enjoying chucking in these little developer ones here and there and everywhere. Great little chat with Craig Adams and all those folks on a Jet and Given Time if you want to listen to that one. Today we are not talking about that. Today we are mostly talking about Steam games. And most of that is about Steam Next Fest demos. Next Fest is on. There's always a festival. Always. I mean, it is. What part of Jeff Keighley's Summer of Games 2022 are we now?
We're in like the fourth cycle of Summer of Games. It's okay. Going strong. People are getting a little dehydrated, so we have those safety tents if you need to check out. But we're still going. It's raging on.
Everybody's sunburnt and fucking hurting, man. It's been a bad time. We're all out here. It's like a music festival, but there's no indoors area, so everyone's just like swaying to the music, but they're all dying.
What's the worst like genre of music festival to go to? I feel like metal concerts are always in like just massive car parks.
Yeah,
like
true.
I think because like if you get a little bit of like, I went to a Rock am Ring and Rock Verster in Europe, and like Rock Verster happens in like the Ardennes forest in Belgium, so it's like fucking gorgeous. It's like you can just drink some Stella Artois in like a little fucking grotto, and then a little witch comes up to you and puts a Belgian spell on you.
I saw Aphex Twin in Houston, and it was an outdoor festival. It was day for night festival, and it kind of had the car park energy. I felt like I was at Toyotathon, but Aphex Twin was headlining.
Did he do the swinging piano thing there? Or?
No, that would have been awesome though.
I feel like seeing Aphex Twin in Houston is also that's a vibe.
It's no offense to Houston. Houston is probably a great place, but I had no intention to go there until Aphex Twin went there. So,
how do we feel about Richard D. James getting into NFTs?
Upset, but able to divorce it from my love of him as an artist. Listen, there's only so many things in this world that I enjoy, and I can't problematize every single one of them.
It's tough, isn't it? It's like you can't play the wizard game because she's a turf, but can you keep listening to Drooks because he's selling digital images of I don't know.
How old is Richard D. James? He's like
he must be
50?
in his like 50s, yeah.
Okay. I think this is one of those cases where he's 51, all right? That's right. Okay. That's like a cusp. I think I personally can justify it internally by saying, you know what? He's a little past the age where I'm like, you know what? He's like middle-aged. Like we think of him as a young, cool, kind of like punk rock figure in electronic music.
Yeah.
He's just like a dad who owns a tank. He's just a normal dad who owns a tank, all right?
I just Googled to see if Chris Cunningham, the famous music video director who did many of Aphex Twin's most famous ones, Window Licker, Come to Daddy, if he was into NFTs, and I found a Chris Cunningham on Twitter who is into NFTs.
No!
But I don't think it's the same person.
Oh, thank God.
And because Twitter now lets you just buy a check mark, because this guy's got 1,000 followers. So I think it's just a weird internet bro. So who knows?
Damn,
anyway.
we could do. Okay, here's a side business idea.
Okay.
We do character assassination, and you hire us if there's a celebrity whose name you want to defame. You hire us to make an account of them, but it's not them. It's just like a person who looks vaguely like them with the same name and a verified account. And then we do all of the. We're like tweeting. We're like, Harry Potter game is so fun. Wow, wizards are cool.
That's
and
good.
Then,
yeah.
And then we're like NFT. Wow, these NFTs are cool. I can't believe how much money I'm making. How much blood money?
Cancel squad.
Yeah, exactly.
We create people to cancel. That's amazing. Yeah. We could make like who'd be on your list, right? Who's like somebody, and I don't mean like somebody who is actually like I want somebody who has wronged you in the most petty way possible, like a musician or like somebody or a brand of food. Something that's just like
food.
Yeah, just something that's like a petty grievance you have.
I feel like someone's got to take Kleenex down a peg, man. You know what I mean? Like they've been riding high. It's the shorthand for tissues. That's just like they need to be taken down.
We could like make a fake Kleenex account and be like, I don't know, I think these Palestinians are kind of asking for it,
No.
Just say something like really like,
Kleenex.
You.
Yeah.
Kleenex. Yeah. I thought you were an ally in the fight against. Okay, I'm getting out of this one. I'm hitting the
eject button.
I'm hitting the eject button.
You're self-canceling. You're doing the business to yourself.
Yeah, I'll just walk around that one. Massive shout out to our Battle Pass holders. I feel like this is the best place to put them. James Brown, welcome to the crew. I think I forgot you last week, so apologies. James Brown joins our regular cadre here of Jason Drury, Cody Krieger, Sven Huster, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Cameron Ladd, George Dakotas, Jacob Godser, and Tohir Tiliev. If you'd like to support this 100% ad-free pro-Palestine podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to a bunch of bonus podcast videos, Discord, hair shavings in the post, you could do so over at patreon.com/Noclip. Noclip. It's French for video games. People don't know that. They think it's something else. It's weird. Jeux video. Where should we start, gentlemen? We have Steam Next Fest. We had a bit of a diversion there a second ago. Steam Next Fest is on. Summer of Games continues. Next Fest is kind of a good spot for indie games that are coming out. It's a festival about games that are coming out. We're not out yet, but we're coming. Check us out. Add us to your wish list. tinyurl.com/stuntderby. Go do it. And there are demos for many of these games which come out, which are some of them are I would say the interesting thing about these demos is that a lot of them go up and disappear after Next Fest, so you kind of got to go out and play them. Some of them are time locked as well, so it's really an interesting sort of way of showcasing games, and we've gone out and done the work and played some of this. Today we're going to talk about the latest System Shock demo. We're going to talk about Shadows of Doubt, Dark and Darker, and then not part of Steam Next Fest, but a sort of a burgeoning, a hit in the making, perhaps, a game that hit Steam. I don't know when it hit it, actually. Pizza Tower. We'll talk about that with Frank Howley as well. Jeremy, you've got a bunch of games here, so I want to start with one of yours. Let's go with Shadows of Doubt. So cool. I played about 20 minutes of this, and I was already fascinated. What the hell is this thing?
Okay, this is like one of the coolest games I've ever played in my life. It is a first-person detective kind of like film noir immersive sim is the best way to describe it. And as such, it is basically exactly what you'd expect. Sometimes you get pitched on a game and you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool, but then you actually play it and it's kind of like 20% of the sandboxy things you'd want to do as a detective. This is like full bore detective mode. Let me give you a little anecdote to summarize how sandboxy this is.
Yeah, give us a scenario.
So it starts, so there's a total sandbox mode where it just like lets you, it generates a whole city, generates people, generates connections between those people, crimes, evidence, the whole thing. But there is a kind of like curated mode that they let you play, which I wanted to check out something a little more curated. So it sets you down the path on solving this murder. But in so doing, there's like a detective-style pin board where you put up evidence, and it's totally sandbox. So if you find like a dead body, you're like, holy shit, you investigate it, and then you can pin that to the pin board, and then you can middle mouse button and drag to other things to do the string, and you can label the string. So if you find a body and you find a knife next to it, you pin both of them, and it's like bloody knife, and that's all the details about that. And then this like clawed is the dead body, and then you connect them, and it's like found this next to him. But you can also find random items and put them on the pin board. And so I was streaming this game to a friend of mine, and so I was doing a bit where every time I'd find like innocuous items, I'd be like, well, this clearly is related. So I had mustard and ketchup on the pin board. I found mustard and ketchup in my apartment, and so I pinned them on the pin board. And so I was like, that'll be like a side quest. We'll figure out the significance of that. And I connected them between the mustard and ketchup and said, what's the significance of this? Now, as the game unfolds, it gives you a little bit more lore about the world. And this is a hyper-capitalist, like, dystopian kind of world, right? And the event that led to the way the world is, it was the mustard wars. And my brain started exploding because I had mustard on the pinboard as a joke. And so I put mustard wars on the pinboard, and it was like, it's all, there's something here. But the game is so brilliant, man. It's like, so it basically just gives you like a crime and kind of pushes you in that direction, and it's like, go figure it out. So you can, it's all of kind of the Deus Ex stuff you'd want to do. It's like you're sneaking, you're hacking, you can fight and kill people. I went into an apartment of a dude who was related to this crime and found his body in there, and then the police came while I was in his apartment, so they obviously thought I did it.
Oh man.
And so they chased me in, so I locked myself in the bathroom and escaped into the vents, but then I was freezing to death in the vents because it was too cold. So I dropped down into another, I dropped down out of another vent, but it was in the same apartment, so the cops were still there.
So funny.
So I went back up in the vent, went to another apartment, dropped down, and I freaked out because there was a cop in there, and I was like, how did they follow me in here? It turns out I had dropped into a cop's apartment who had just gotten off work. And so I dropped into this cop's apartment.
This game's fucking bizarre.
Insane.
And it's worth mentioning because people might be like, is this 2D? So this is a first-person game that is like, again, I don't know. It's like these games are following you, Jeremy. Because last week we talked about, what the fuck was the name?
BattleBit.
BattleBit.
Yeah.
Was that just BattleBit something?
BattleBit Remastered.
BattleBit Remastered, where we were saying like, oh, it's kind of like Battlefield, but it looks like Teardown, right? Yeah. It's like, what does that look? It's like,
so BattleBit,
pixel.
Yeah. So BattleBit looks to me more kind of like Robloxy. This is Shadows of Doubt is voxels. So it's like
that's what it is.
Yeah. So I don't know that much about voxels. I feel like a younger generation is really into that look. I personally have no attachment to it. I could take it or leave it. I think it's a if I had to guess, I don't know anything about this. This is kind of talking out of fucking my league here. I think it has to do with optimization or performance. I feel like having a bunch of static cube objects in the world that all are sort of similarly physicsy is probably a good optimization trick or something.
So voxels were I remember they were a pretty big thing back in the early aughts when, as a way of like, I think it's like level of detail almost, where, because like Delta Force, the PC game, used voxels, but not in the aesthetic voxels way we look at them now, and it was basically a way of like rendering into infinity, but without having like crazy amounts of processing required. I don't even think Delta Force required a graphics card. I might be wrong on that. So that was like, I remember at that time it was like, oh, this is how we're going to make these large worlds, is we're going to use voxels instead of pixels. And again, I'm like you, I'm not a tech artist, so I don't know what that means. In these modern games, I feel like it must have something to do with that, because games like Teardown and this game, and a game that I don't know if it uses voxels but looks very voxely, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, System Shock, all of these games have like crazy cool dynamic lighting.
Yeah.
And I feel like this game, Shadows of Doubt, also, presumably there's lots of hiding in shadows as well, but the lighting, like it has that voxely look, but it's sort of, I feel like it's worth it because of the lighting or something. It also makes things very readable. You know what I mean? You can like, oh, that's a lamp. Oh, that's a bed. It's obvious because everything's like a fucking square.
Yeah, it always feels like Legos to me, which is, I don't know if that's like a generational thing or whatever, but it always reminds me of Legos. But it doesn't, it's not, it doesn't take me out of it. Like it doesn't inspire anything. I don't see it and I go, oh, hell yeah. Like it reminds me of something that I loved as a kid or whatever. But I mean, the lighting is absolutely gorgeous.
So how detailed is this? Because I played like 20 minutes and I was so like systems rich, but I literally never got out of the apartment.
Yeah.
I was still like learning how to do all the stuff, answering the phone and, doing the pin board and all that sort of stuff. So, at the start it pans through the city in this demo. And by the way, you can go play this yourselves, folks, if you want to. Take our word for it. But how big is the world? Can you go into like literally every house if you could? And like, can you walk out in the street? Is there day-night cycles? What's the deal? Because it's like an indie game, but it seems like systemically it's really trying a lot.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, even though it's a first-person immersive sim, I feel like a lot of the inspiration comes from like deep simulated games like Caves of Cud or Dwarf Fortress, because when the game takes a while to load and it can procedurally generate cities, but when it's loading, the little like the loading bar has a little summation above it of what it's doing in games, like the reticulating splines thing in The Sims or whatever. It said like generating historical events. So clearly this game is like is not only generating the city and the layout of everything, but also like this person works with this person and they like sent an email to this guy begging to keep their job because they got in trouble, and them getting in trouble is somehow related to, you know what I mean? It's like it generates a whole history. So you can go into any building, and the game even says at one point, like kind of like late in the tutorial, you might track down a lead and it's a dead end. Like that's just part of being a detective. Is like
that's awesome.
Yeah, which is it's so cool. So like after I dropped into that cop's apartment by accident, we got in a fight and I got badly injured but knocked them out. And so I was like, all right, well now I have to search the apartment because like I don't think this is related to the case, but there might be cool stuff here. So I start going around.
If I'm gonna get done for assaulting a police officer, I might as well also steal stuff.
Exactly. So I start like going through their files and stuff. I found like their lease and like a letter from their landlord and stuff. And they woke up while I was rifling through their things. So I had to fight this cop again in their own apartment. And so I'm like, all right, I have to get out of here. But I was looking for the key because the front door was locked. And so I didn't want to waste lockpicks picking my way out of an apartment.
Oh my God.
And so I opened a door looking for the key, and their spouse was sleeping in the bedroom the whole time.
Oh my God.
So it's just like froze. There's this person, and they were sleeping the wrong way too, which freaked me out. So it just was like
sideways or like
no, like head on the.
That's weird.
It was weird, dude. I know. So yeah, this game is awesome. I'm trying to think of the only other thing that's worth mentioning. I mean, it's all worth mentioning, but the only other thing I want to highlight is that it has cameras. There's like camera systems, so you can get caught doing crimes. So there's a lot of like picking open breaker boxes and turning off cameras and stuff.
Oh, cool.
But some places have gun turrets that are powered by the cameras. And so I broke into a diner to get to find security footage of the murder victim the day before he died. And I was like, okay, who was he with? So I could track that person down. But in so doing, I accidentally fucked up the security system, and I rewired it so that I was the only non-hostile target. So everyone came into work while I was in the back office and died because the turrets killed all the employees.
Jeremy, that's probably a way worse crime than the one you were investigating.
I know. So the joke became that all of the bodies of people I killed, I put on the pin board and was like, I wonder who could have done this.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is a nightmare.
It's such a good game.
This game is being developed by Coal Powered Games, who did release a game in 2015 called Concrete Jungle, which looks really neat. It's like a SimCity deck building game. I'd never seen it before. But this game is definitely like, I don't know. It seems like it's really trying to do a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It sounds like it's doing a lot of it well. I feel like people are going to be talking a lot about this. I remember seeing like a trailer for it or something a while back. I don't know when. And then when you sent me the link to it and you were like, dude, you got to check this out. I was like, oh yes, I remember this. This was like, so I don't know if it's been like around and talked about for a long time or something, but it's super impressive.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I don't know what's happening, man. Like immersive sims are happening. And then you're right. There is the like Caves of Cod Dwarf. Maybe it's because I'm more into that stuff now because of the Dwarf Fortress stock or something, but it kind of like, I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of games like Weird West last year. To me, felt very much in this ilk, not as deep as this, obviously. But there's something about these, like, we're able to now make sandbox games that do narrative. You know, that's crazy. Like emergent narrative, which is basically what Dwarf Fortress and Caves of Cod is all about. It's super cool. Any other thoughts? Any other stories about Shadows of Doubt before we move on?
The only other
Did you solve any?
No, I didn't. I didn't solve anything. So the demo is a 90-minute time limit. You can play it multiple times, but it's 90 minutes, and then your like save goes away. The game actually, when it hit 90 minutes, the game actually crashed, and I was like, "Damn, they're serious about this." I don't know if that was
like
intentional.
Kojima deletes your save game and everything. You know,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It blows up. The only other thing to mention is that when I was sneaking through the vents and freezing to death, I dropped into yet another apartment, and I was freaking out because I was like low health and freezing to death. And I also was hiding under the bed in the first apartment, and when the cops came in, they're like, something stinks in here. And I looked on the side, and there was an icon that said I smelled bad because I'd been digging through the trash looking for clues.
Oh my god!
So I dropped into someone else's apartment, and I was freezing to death, and I stunk. So I was like, well, maybe I can use their shower. So I used their shower, and it warmed me up and got rid of the stink, and then I just disappeared back into the vents.
Were you still wearing your clothes?
Yeah.
I wonder if you're wet then or something.
I did get wet when I went out in the rain, but I guess it bypasses that for the shower because that would be insane.
So funny.
Dude, this game is really cool.
And you played this game for like 90 minutes. And I love how like you were trying to be a detective, but you were just like the creepy guy who lives in the walls.
Yeah.
For like 3 different apartments.
I ended up being the worst criminal in this city by accident.
But it's like, that's a good point. Like usually when you find a vent shaft in a video game, it's conveniently where you are and goes to exactly where you want it to be. So the idea that is not how these work. They are yes, it's a video game, so we'll allow you to crawl in the vent, even though that's ridiculous. But you will freeze to death, and you are not going to end up where you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very impressive game. There are so many good demos I want to talk about today, but that if you play one demo, this is like kind of the one that blew me away.
Very cool. Shadows of Doubt is the name of it. Shadows of Doubt. Write it down on your phone. Google it. Go check it out. Yes, I'm very much excited to. I was bummed that I had to go pick something up, and I was like, I want to play this game more. So go check that out. Frank, do you mind if I talk about System Shock, and then we'll do Pizza Tower after that? Okay, so System Shock. This is like the longest development story. We did a video with Stephen Kick at GDC 2017, I want to say, I forget, maybe 2018, about how he came to own the license to System Shock, which was basically he was like on a vacation with his girlfriend in like Central America and was like playing System Shock on an old laptop or something, and then was like, who owns the rights to this? And then found like an insurance company that owned the rights and didn't know what they were, because Looking Glass had shut down or whatever, it all been bought up by somebody or something, and IDOS had taken some or whatever it was. And he, if I remember the story correctly, it was a video we did like 4 or 5 years ago. He basically bought the rights to System Shock. And since then, they've been working on this one. I remember there was a Kickstarter back in, I want to say 2016 for this. It's gone through a couple of different versions. I think there was some negative feedback to an original look it had. Then there was also the Other Side Entertainment System Shock that was seemingly being made by Warren Spector and a bunch of ex-Looking Glass people, which then looked like it was being made by the Chinese conglomerate that owned Other Side, or that was like their biggest investor. And it looks like now that's all not happening. That was like System Shock 3, I think. I don't know what's happened to that project. This project, System Shock, which is basically a remake of the original System Shock, but that's like saying remaking Commander Keen. It's like the original System Shock is like an old ass game. It is coming out apparently in March of this year. This demo is out. There was a demo, I believe, 2 years ago, I want to say, of the same sort of kind of general area of the game, the medical level, which is the first level of System Shock. This has some significant differences. It looks different. There's a lot more detail. The level's been moved around. Lots more extra features brought in. The combat has been overhauled as well. But I'll take your questions in a second. But it's, I think, important to like sort of, I don't know. Have any of you guys played System Shock?
I've played it like 10 minutes of System Shock.
I haven't played the original, but I think I played a demo of it at PAX, and I think it's pretty close to this version.
Okay, so System Shock 2. Any takers?
I don't think so. I think I played the original System Shock.
So System Shock 1 and 2 are kind of a generational difference away from each other. The original System Shock came out in 1994. System Shock 2 you can look at and go, oh, that's like a 90s first-person shooter. It looks like, it's got mouse control that looks fluid, and you have guns and blah, 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 blah.
Okay, I played one.
You played one then?
I played one because I think you control the cursor with the arrow keys, or was you? Yeah.
It feels closer to something like Ultima Underworld or something, right? Where it's you can shoot a gun in this game, but it's not really a first person shooter.
Yeah.
It's very like labyrinthian, and when you come up to an enemy, you have to figure out what weapon you want to use because you've only got a certain amount of bullets, and it's a lot about going up to terminals, and there's like this weird wireframe cyberspace mode. And it's like a game that's screaming out for a remake because there's no way you would go back and play it. It feels like a game lost in time, like a direction that first person games were going, and then Doom came out, and then well, I guess Doom came out before, but an immersive sims even went, like games like Thief ended up being more the look in System Shock 2 than System Shock 1. It's like a stepping stone game. So I maybe played 5-10 minutes of System Shock 1. I don't ever remember playing System Shock 1, but I know I probably played a bit of it. System Shock 2 I played years later, and I didn't even play, like if I had to do like an English exam on what System Shock 2 is, I'd fail it. Like I could not tell you. I've played all the other Licking Glass. I played loads of Deus Ex and Thief and all those games. I know them back to front, inside out. But System Shock has always been a bit of a blind spot for me. So this kind of reminds me of going back and playing the Demon's Souls remake, or I guess probably The Last of Us Part 1 maybe, for people who never played the original Last of Us, where it's perfect for me because I've always wanted to play System Shock 1, but I'm never going back and playing System Shock 1 on GOG or whatever. And I love this game. I think it's absolutely fascinating because it is, coming off the back of just talking about Shadows of Doubt, it's not that systemic. It's very much a closed box. It takes place on a space station. You wake up. There is an AI called Shodan that is like seemingly running amok and has taken control of this space station. You've been asleep for 6 months. And, a lot of the inhabitants have been turned into different, baddies, and you are trying to make your way through the levels of the spaceship while Shodan becomes increasingly irritated by your progress. It's like first person shootery, but you're doing a lot of like hacking terminals and trying to get access to door areas and all this sort of stuff. I can't compare it to the original System Shock. It seems like it's very similar. Like I've watched some videos and I'm like, oh yeah, these levels are like, maybe 70%, 80% the same. But I don't know what it is. It's like the same reason I'm telling you I would not go back and play System Shock 1 is the reason why this game works. Because they are using the same like 1994 gameplay. They're not like, I don't think they've gotten rid of much. And a lot of it is very esoteric and weird and feels like a sort of a cul-de-sac in game design that we don't. So when I was playing it, I felt like I didn't really know how to play these games, which, as a 37-year-old who's played a lot of these fucking games, is awesome. Because I was like, oh, like, I don't really know where I'm supposed to go here. And the graphics are very vibrant, like super neon, super contrasty. It's kind of hard at the start. I will say it, like, for the first 30 minutes, I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be interacting with a lot of the time. Like, I couldn't tell the objects that were, pickups and, because everything's so bright and shiny. That was not a problem after an hour. I was just like, the demo was like about an hour and a half. I played for 2 hours because I was having a blast so much that I was figuring it out. But there are parts of this game that are absolutely stellar. The atmosphere is incredible. The music, the atmospheric noise, the voice acting on the like the tapes, the voice tapes you pick up. What do you call those again? Voice logs, whatever they're called.
Logs or something. Yeah.
Are haunting. Like, I don't know who they did to do the voice acting, to do the coaching, and who they hired. Terry Brocious is back doing Shodan, and it is the creepiest fucking voice. My hairs on the back of my neck stood up every time she talked. It is terrifying. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe what this would have been like back in the 90s. But the way they do like the modulation on her voice as this like crazy AI that's like, oh my God, what? I wish I could like quote the lines she say, but it's like, oh my God, she like thinks so little of humanity, and she's doing all these like, I picked up a voice log that she had. It's gonna kill me that I keep saying voice log. What the fuck do you call those things?
Like audio logs?
Audio log.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, audio log. I picked up an audio log that she had sent, like it was a command she had sent to one of the androids to basically like release a bunch of toxins into a human enclosed area, and then like she was like, you know, terminate any uncooperative humans and blah blah blah. It was, oh my god. But anyway, super, like, I love it. The shooting is amazing. The pistol is just like, it's like Half-Life 2. You know when a pistol feels really good? It's like perfect. Boom, boom. And the headshots for the things. Some of the robots are like, the robots are very like sort of Jetsons robots, where they're like kind of big lumbering, like kind of Fallout, 3 robots. But like one of them was like, it sounded like it was a human in the robot who was like wanting to die. Like it was like attacking me and saying like really fucked up shit, like, that it was tortured, and saying it's so creepy. It's like, it's the creepiest thing. And I'm really, really enjoying it. Do you guys have any thoughts or questions?
Is it like, is the loop of it kind of survival horror-y? Like, is it kind of, you only have a little bit of ammo and you have to be kind of conservative about where you're going and how much you're shooting and stuff? Or what's like the kind of feel of it?
I would say, the way modern games have gotten really good at looping you around and like you kind of always know where you're meant to go. This game does none of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it is awesome. Like, it does none of that. And at the start, I had a sort of a reaction to that, like, oh, I'm lost. That's bad game design. And then I was like, oh wait, no, that's what this game is.
Yeah.
This is a labyrinth, and I'm not really meant to be comfortable.
Yeah, that's also that's like a core component of any good adventure too, is like, feeling a little lost or something. You know what I mean? Like, if you always, no matter how, if you have the grandest open world imaginable, but you're constantly looking at the map and like a compass that's pointing you in the right direction, I feel like you don't really get the sense of being, on an adventure. You're kind of just like going from A to B or whatever.
I will say that like games like Signalis, for instance, or Resident Evil are good at like having like a central area that you sort of, in Resident Evil 1 you always end up back in the main hall, right? It's kind of like the main like artery. And in Signalis the levels are very loopy, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you always kind of, there's usually like a main hall or two that you can sort of get to, and there's elevators and all that sort of stuff. I found in this that like, and there's a map that constantly records and tells you where you are and all this sort of stuff. So you can go back to that. But it did feel a lot more like you're going out into the outer edges of this level and then having to backtrack through everything. And sometimes those areas get repopulated, but mostly they don't. So it's very like, oh fuck, am I going the right way? Like, should I be? Like, I'm reading audio logs, or I'm reading text logs, data logs, or whatever. I'm like trying to make sure that I'm like going to the right place, and like I'm being really mindful of because I think that's the thing that happens as a byproduct of games being really good at like automatically letting you know where you are, is that a lot of the time you don't really listen. Then you're just sort of like, the game will get me there. But very early on in this, I was like, oh no, this game is not holding my hand at all. Like, I need to, I'm going to really fuck myself if I don't, and it's just funny. It's like there's funny systems. You can, you pick up ammo, and you can, like, your inventory is limited, right? So you pick up a lot of weapons, and then you pick up weapons. It's kind of like Deus Ex, where it has like a Resident Evil style, tile system where you kind of slot the stuff in, and it can do it automatically, and eventually it fills up. And what happens is then you have like, it's really funny. You have like 10, empty inventory things at the bottom of your screen. But you can never hold 10 weapons because you just don't have that much space, because they take up inventory space. So you really have to like decide which ones to use. And they have like a dumb waiter. Yeah. Those, it's a dumb waiter, like a little mini elevator that goes between floors. They have a dumb waiter in the game that you can fill with some stuff. And even that's not that big. So like you have to choose what goes in that. And then once you get to like the next level, you can like call it and it'll come up, and you can like take some of that shit. But you can't take everything all the time. So it's you can like, there's machines where you can trash your stuff and get credits, and then you can take those credits literally to like a vending machine for ammunition, and then I put the money in the vending machine, coins, in the vending machine and then hit the button for medical thing, and the medical thing came down and didn't fucking. It was physics, and it didn't come down.
Oh no, it got stuck in the vending machine.
I had to buy a second one.
Oh my god, dude.
So there's physics, like it's very physicsy with like the enemies when they die and stuff, which really feels fun and good. I really like it. I think if you've played System Shock, maybe there's stuff in here that doesn't feel exactly how you would have liked. And it has, I don't know, it has that voxely kind of look to it, which I do think might turn some people off. But the more I played this, the more I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I really like this. Like once I got to the end of the demo and got out of medical, I was super bummed that I have to wait a month to play more of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to play this. System Shock is one of those games, like we were talking about, how the inputs feel so alien to me that it just like it was just hard to get into. I feel like I needed someone who was really passionate about System Shock sitting next to me to be like, oh yeah, no, like that's weird, but you'll get used to that. You know what I mean? Like to kind of justify it to me or something.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is such a good use case for doing a full remake, because I oftentimes see remakes and I'm like, oh, like that game came out like 2 generations ago. It may look a little rougher on the edges, but it still plays perfectly well. But I feel like this is a case where I actually want to play the remake.
Yeah, and the funny thing with PC, this happens more with PC games, right? Because a lot of like, Nintendo or N64, they're such a different form factor. You have to plug them. I mean, you can emulate them, but like PC games are so like available. Like GOG is right there. You can go up in Steam. You can pick up these games really easily. But like, it's the video game equivalent of like playing like a silent movie sometimes, or like something that's shot in 4:3, or it's like it just feels off. Like right clicking to interact with stuff is like, oh, I don't know about that, So this game having like all the trappings of a modern game, while still having quick save and quick loads like those games had, and all the like weird idiosyncratic stuff when it came to like. The levels are small, probably because it was 1994 and you had to have small rooms because you couldn't have draw distance. So that's why things look this way, and that's why the contrast was this way. But then to bring that modern, but keep the rules, you know what I mean? Keep the rules as creative restrictions, I think is so cool. And I really can't it's the atmosphere. It's so good. Even the cyberspace stuff they kept in it, which is basically these levels where you like jack in cyberspace with this like fucking this. It looks like the remember that weird PlayStation 3 controller that never came out, the with the long arms on it. It looks like that. You stick it around your eyeballs, and you're in like this like fucking. It looks like something out of Hackers, where you're just like shoot. It's like a Descent clone basically, where you're like in a 3D space shooting stuff But the music and it's so good. Like the tonal design of this game, even that stuff, which is like super zany and whatever, it's right on point. It's like not overly too zany. It's not too self-serious. Like the game being so weird and vibrant, and then having these just absolutely chilling audio logs there. I got it. Yeah, super into it. System Shock on Steam. Pick it up now. The demo. Apparently the release date is still March 2023.
Nice.
Yeah, go check it out. It's something else. Any more questions on that, or will we move on to Pizza Tower?
I want to hear about Pizza Tower. Unless Frank has questions.
Pizza Tower. I was in Costco this morning, which is, according to their signs, the 14th biggest pizza distributor in America. Pizza store. Costco pizza, always delicious. It was a bit too early this morning to have some. But that doesn't mean you can't play Pizza Tower instead. What is Pizza Tower, Frank Howley, and why should we buy it?
Pizza Tower is an insane 2D platformer. The hook is, I'd never played the Wario Land series, but that's like the core gameplay inspiration. So it's that, but it looks like a 90s Nickelodeon cartoon. It is the most like amazing, like the animation. It is a super fast, tight platformer. You play as a pizza chef named Peppino Spaghetti, a fat, balding Italian man. It is so like knockoff, off-brand Mario. Like it is so funny. But playing it, like you're immediately blasted with like Sega Genesis, like super funky bass, heavy, beautiful music. The closest thing that it feels like is like in terms of just it being an indie platformer is it's like the best indie platformer I've played since like Celeste, or something where like the gameplay and platforming and movement and speed is just so like butter. It's so beautiful and crisp. But the game is so like ridiculous and has that like 90s attitude. Like it feels like this is a game like that slipped through time. And every stage is unique in the sense every level has a unique theme. You're running through.
What's the like core gameplay? Because this doesn't play like a Mario. I never played Wario Land, so I don't know. To me, it was kind of like the closest thing. Celeste is a good comparison, or like Super Meat Boy is honestly where I kind of went with it. So what are you doing? Like, because it's way faster than like a regular platformer, right?
Yeah. So in every level, you're going into you're going into these like caves or areas or dungeons, and you're collecting pizza toppings, so you can then come out and make your pizza or whatever. But the idea is like you're going into an area, you're collecting all the pizza toppings. Once you get to the end of like the dungeon or cave, you hit something and then you have like 3 minutes to escape the level. So the first time you're going through a stage, you can, if you want to like perfect it, you can like you have like a combo meter, and if you're really in the zone with it, it's almost like a Sonic level where you can speed through it and get everything in one beautiful go. If you're hit, you kind of drop your combo. The game doesn't penalize you though. You have infinite health except if you're fighting bosses. And there's secrets you can get into if you want to like perfect it. But you're collecting pizza toppings. There's like basic platforming where you're fighting enemies, you're picking up stuff, throwing them at enemies. But the real like exhilaration is then you have to escape every like level, and you have like 2.5 minutes to run through, and like this incredible music starts building, and you get in this flow state. And even like,
is this like back the way you came?
Yes, right. Yeah. And the levels will kind of shift, almost like things are crumbling, like Indiana Jones, the temples are breaking down. And it's just all like, it's just the most ridiculous, like it's pizza, there's toppings, there's like, it's also very like Earthworm Jim, there's like farm animals, like cows, like it's so ridiculous. And as you're going through levels, like the whole thing with Wario Land is like, Wario uses his shoulder tackle and butt stomps to like break blocks to get through, also kind of like Mario. So the first time you're going through, you're kind of chipping down these levels and breaking things down, like opening up areas, opening up doors, finding keys, unlocking it. And then that way when you pull out, you repel out, then you can kind of get through the levels super fast. But like, yeah, if we talk about like game feel, it's just it truly feels exhilarating to play, and at the same time it's very silly, very funny. Every time you go into a new room, it's like there's something that's so silly or some detail. And yeah, again, the animation is so expressive the entire time you're playing. If you start building up a combo, on the top right is like a little like CRT TV, and it's a zoom in of like your character's animations, and he starts like fiending and getting wide-eyed, and it's so like Ren and Stimpy or Rocko's Modern Life. So yeah,
it's like a cartoon version of the guy in Wolfenstein at the bottom of the scale or something, you know.
Yes, well said. And I think it's so funny. Like to me, I grew up on like my favorite games of all time were like Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Donkey Kong Country 2, and it's so cool like to finally play something. And again, there's always been indie great platformers like Super Meat Boy, Celeste. I'm sure there's other things I'm neglecting to mention, but like this is scratching an itch where it's like, oh, this feels so good. And I've only been playing it on my PC, but I imagine this is perfect on Steam Deck. It's only on Steam now. I would hope or imagine it gets ported to other consoles. But
is it out? It's out, right? January 26th from the developer Tour de Pizza. So they're really taking this seriously. Can I ask you about the controls? Because to me, that's the thing that stands out, that sort of isolates this game, is that this isn't like a 2D platformer you're sort of used to. This has very like idiosyncratic controls where you like can run up walls or like break through boxes. So you have to hit like down and A at the right time to like slide and break boxes, and you can like wall jump and stuff. So it reminded me of Super Meat Boy that way, but when I did the tutorial, it was very like specific about like, oh, you got to press this button and this button to do the stomp, which works for these. And then if you want to go across water, this is what you do. And if you do this and this, how difficult does that stuff get? Like, is it easy to control? Because at the start I was like, oh, this is like, I can't just like turn up here as somebody who played Mario and then understand how to play this game. Like, you really need to do the tutorial.
Yeah, at first I was like, "What? This is so many. Like, there's so many. It seems like there's so many mechanics, and even like as I'm playing, I will still hold the wrong button." But it seemed like after, I feel like the first stage is very straightforward. I feel like every stage they start stacking mechanics. Because I totally forgot like how to run on water. I got stuck on a level, and I was like, "Oh, you just have to like be running fast enough." But it feels like there's like you won't be able to progress unless you do the right thing. And I feel like the early on the tooltips, again, just like Yoshi's Island or something, the tooltips are very like hey, you dummy, this is what you got to do. Like even jokey, like so it's pretty helpful. And then once you master it, then you can chain a whole level. But like that is the satisfaction of like. I think the whole time I'm like holding the right trigger, which is like your sprint button. If you don't do it, then you're just running normal. So I'm like trying to remember as I play with my muscle memory. I'll hold R, I'll start running, and then if you're running for like 3 seconds, you start going super fast. You can break through. But then depending where you need to go, your ultimate objective, you have to maintain that momentum. So you can either wall bounce a handful of times. Sometimes you have to do the Super Metroid thing where you have to hold down, charge up a super jump, and then spike up, or
that's cool.
You have to like jump up and then like kind of cannon dive down to like get into like a duck spot space. Like it's crazy. And there's also like a lot of secrets. So if you're a master of these mechanics, you can sort them out. But like, I feel like the game. Oh, again, like, kind of like Sonic, where I feel like once you're able to get in the flow of it, you can like read the level well and be like, okay, here we go. And if you bail like a Tony Hawk line, you could just let me get to the beginning of this like area and try again. There is no like the first half of the level. There's no timer, there's no health, so it is pretty friendly. At first, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. No, you have unlimited health. It doesn't matter. And even on when you're going back, having to sprint through it, like. I have yet to hit a point where I've run out of time. So the game seems friendly. There is boss battles, but even the boss battles, they aren't impossible like Cuphead. They're very manageable. Like they're like Mario bosses where it's like, okay, once you figure it out, the second boss is a Western showdown, and it turns into a Mega Man fight where all of a sudden you're shooting somebody. Like every level will introduce like a unique mechanic. There's like one level where you eat something spicy, so all of a sudden you're breathing fire and that knocks stuff down. There's another level where you have like, I forget what, you have an umbrella or there's like a hook, so all of a sudden you're like hook shotting across and something. So it's like they're constantly, you have the platform mechanics, and then every stage you can ride a horse on one level. So they're always like adding things to the movement, which keeps it really fresh. And I've seen, yeah. Oh,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I've seen like my friend Sebmal posted like a full like S rank run of a level, and it's like when you see someone who's like a master at it, it's like, oh shit, okay, so the skill ceiling's good.
Hearing you talking about it reminded me of what game I think this is the most like, Neon White.
Oh
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesse, play this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse would like this.
Because it is a like. I mean, I think Neon White you can like lose levels very easily if you don't do exactly what you're meant to do, but like there's such a mastery flow state to this thing. It's cool. I think it's like you said, you've done a great job trying to explain what this thing is. I feel like people need to look at like 20 seconds of video or like 2 screenshots, and they'll be like, oh, because the look of it, it's like, you're right. It's like somewhere between Nickelodeon and like Flash games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can't, it's so like fun to look at. It's a very like even the menu is very like, what the fuck did they do?
The animation is crazy. Frank, I watched you stream this for like 10 minutes the other night because I was burning my brain on Signalis video essay, and I needed to just like do something and sit there and just watch video games, but like couldn't muster the brain power to play them. So the thing that stood out the most to me was the wind up animation when you start running is like, you know, I maybe this is just because I've been doing a lot of pixel art lately, but if you do like a walk cycle for animation, it's, you know, whatever, like 6-8 frames, something like that is normal. It's like 30 frames for the windup. It's so smooth. Like it's the animation in this game is absolutely insane. The people who did the animation for it must be really passionate about animation itself, because it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like games animation. It feels like animation for, you know, like a golden era Nickelodeon show, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, and every stage, what blows me away is it's like every stage has new like backgrounds, new characters, new designs. Right. Where it's like that's what's really impressive, because I've played so many platformers, and it's like, okay, let's even Nintendo games, let's use the same freaking enemies all over again. Every level, it's like I can't believe the amount of detail, and I think I saw where it's like they worked on at least 5 years or something like that. Like it is the amount of labor and love.
I wonder how many like frames of animation are in this. Or,
countless.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The vibe I get from the levels and how they swap is like very much like 90s Amiga, like James Pond sort of, you know, where like, you're right, every level is just like completely full of like, also, you know, I guess there's like a central theme, but sometimes it's hard to like see it because you're just like, why are there like pigs in this level singing? You know, there's like an Elvis pig in one of the levels, and yeah, it's super crazy. Pizza Tower, how it's got. Sorry, I should also mention it has 3,000 reviews on Steam, overwhelmingly positive, 99% positive at the moment, which is pretty something. Pretty something else. How much have you played? Do you know how long it is? It's only $20, so we should also mention that.
That's a good call. I want to say maybe there's 5 worlds. I think I have right now. I have about 4 hours of playtime. I've beaten the first 2 worlds, so I think I have 3 more worlds. And then every level has like 4 specific achievements. So like there's so many like little collectibles and things to get, and you can. I think there's S rank, but the master rank is P rank for pizza or something like that. Like, so like I imagine this is a really perfect Steam Deck game of like, oh no, let me go back, and then once you master the movement mechanics, it's like okay, like you could try this over and over again. But like even already just the amount of detail and animation, like I want to get the soundtrack. They sell that on Steam too, is so good and funky. But I think like again, I think if you just look at it and watch like the video on Steam, like you'll already know if this is up for you. But I couldn't believe when I saw this on my radar, like a handful of people reached out to me like, hey, you should play this. Like this is a very frank game. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is amazing.
Excellent. That is Pizza Tower, available on Steam right now. The full game, $20. Not part of the Next Fest, but definitely a breakout hit since we last spoke. Thanks very much, Frank. I'm going to go check that. I played a bit on my PC, but I'm going to do some Steam Deck, I think. I think you're right. It could be a good shout for that. Jeremy, you've got 2 other Next Fest games here. Which of these did you play the most?
I feel like I would love to quick hit both of them because I feel like they both deserve highlighting. I will be much more short-winded. Is that, can you say the opposite of long-winded is short-winded?
Doing a bad job right now.
Okay, true. Good point. Radio the Universe is a top-down action RPG. It reminds me of Secret of Mana and like Super Nintendo ARPGs. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is some of the best pixel art I've ever seen. It's an incredibly restrained palette. I would describe it as Link to the Past meets Hyper Light Drifter.
Yes.
But with kind of like
that.
a Signalis adjacent art direction. It's absolutely beautiful. It plays so well. It's got this like a lot of times when I play games inspired by that era of Super Nintendo action RPGs, it kind of feels like they're not doing anything new. They're just kind of like, it's a love letter to like 90s kind of games. This feels like it's doing incredibly unique things. The combat system is so like heavy and chunky. It reminds me of Souls games a little bit, where you really have to commit to your hits because you can die super easily. And when you die, it respawns you instantaneously. So these boss fights are very, very difficult. One of them I did maybe like 20 times or something. But yeah,
okay.
Radio the Universe, it's a pretty short demo, but I highly recommend it. I'm so excited for that.
I get this sense that like when you're talking about new games, podcasts might be the worst format for this, because so much of how these games comes across
visual
is like in the visuals,
yeah.
right? And this game again, Radio the Universe, go check it out on Steam. Sorry, not to discredit your great preview of it, but it's so funny, isn't it? How like once you see a picture, you're like, oh, and then I can hear. You know what I mean? Like this looks crazy.
It is
like it's
so much fun. You have this giant sword that you swing for your attack, and then it's also very cryptic. Like nothing is really in English. Everything is kind of like glitched and weird and alien.
Cool.
So it's really just this weird feeling of being thrown into this mysterious world. Even the skill tree where you unlock new things, it kind of almost doesn't tell you a lot about how things function. So you just start like pushing buttons, and then you figure it out. But just play this demo. Give it like 10 to 20 minutes, because at first I was kind of skeptical, and it really won me over by the end.
Nice one.
Yeah.
That is Radio the Universe. And then the other one you have here is
Darker.
Darker.
Yeah. But not a dark version of the famous Jim Carrey movie Dumb and Dumber, for the record. Dark and Darker is an extraction shooter like Tarkov, but it is sort of like, imagine if Tarkov was Morrowind, is how I would describe this game.
Oh my god.
It is a fantasy, like first-person fantasy kind of like RPG systems driven thing, but it's you're dropped into a dungeon. There's a bunch of other people dropped into the dungeon, but there's also monsters everywhere, and it's incredibly easy to die. And it's got a Diablo style loot system. So, and it has open comms, which is so funny because like you'll go in and most people will just grief you because it's like a extraction shooter style game, right? But like last night I played a little bit more, and this guy came up to me in the Goblin Caves, and he's like, "Listen, man, it's tough enough out here. Like we don't need to be fighting each other." And I was like, "All right, yeah, true, dude, true." So we start. He was like, "Do you?" He's like, "I have this bow. Like I have this blue like rare bow. Why don't you take this so you know that I'm serious? Like I don't want to fight you." So he gave me this bow, and I had like a bunch of wizard stuff I couldn't use. So I was like, "You take all these items." So we like traded a bunch of items, and then we worked together the whole dungeon. And the way you escape is that it has a circle like any BR that comes in that hurts you if you're outside of it. So as the circle closes, portals open. These little towers come up, and you have to interact with them. And you lose all of your loot except your starting loot if you die and don't take a portal. So you can spend 20 minutes getting cool items and stuff, and then one little skeleton just throws it all away. But you're not guaranteed to get portals, and so you can end up in the final circle and there's just no portal for you. So me and my boy are looking for portals, and I was like, "Listen, man, I don't think both of us are getting out of here. Like, if there's one portal, I want you to have it." And he's like, "Thanks, man. That's really nice of you." And then this squad of 3 comes in, and we're like, "Hey, guys, like, there's probably enough portals for all of us." And they don't say a word. They just kill us both. So it's like,
oh my god!
But it is so like, I don't even know. It's like janky is the wrong word because it feels polished, but it's one of those games where it's like I played for 10 minutes and I was like, I don't know if this is a good game. And then I played for an hour and I was like, this is the best game ever. Yeah, I think you just gotta play it.
Is it? I mean, the name suggests it, and the screenshots definitely do too. It looks very dark.
It is dark. It is dark, and the sound design is extremely crunchy, and loud. Like the sound design reminds me of when you go to the movie theater for the first time in a while, and you're like, oh my god, like those gunshots are so like I could feel them in my chest. I feel like every time a skeleton comes near me, it sounds like someone's breaking chicken bones in my ear. But yeah, this game is awesome, and it's all physics driven too. So if like a skeleton swings a sword and you raise your shield up, it's not an auto block. You have to like angle it in front of the incoming sword and stuff. So, what game is like that? I guess Chivalry is the one that I've played a lot. That was like that. So like, is it like one skeleton could like wipe your team, or is it like, or like, are they difficult, or are you chewing through them? They're okay. So with the starting sword on the like fighter warrior guy, I would say like your average low level skeleton's probably 5 or 6 hits to kill, and they can kill you in probably 2 or 3 hits.
Oh wow!
So it's not easy. If you really just have to try to like aggro a guy and then kite them out of the room, because if you pull two skeleton bats and a skeleton and like a mage, you're just boned. Like that's not a skeleton pun. I just like it's a hard game. I probably escaped 2 times in the 3 hours I've played.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And that is Dark and Darker. Also available on Steam. Next Fest, a demo. Any time limit on that one?
No, it's just when Next Fest goes away, so too does Dark and Darker.
So it will be away by the time we talk on this podcast. Certainly by the time you listen to the next podcast. Next Fest runs until February 13th. Which is this coming Monday at the time this one goes up. So we may talk a little bit about some of the extra games we played, but sadly they will not be games next week that you'll be able to actually play yourself. There is a Darkest Dungeon 2 demo up there as well, I think, which is I did not get a chance to play yet, but that's pretty cool. That game's coming pretty soon as well. I think it's early May. Darkest Dungeon 2 will be coming out. Bunches of games there, not just first-person games. Lots of it's crazy how good indie game these games have gotten. I mean, some of these are AAA or whatever, but they mostly look like they're from pretty smallish teams. You know what I mean? Just spending a lot of time working on these games. It's really impressive. Any other games you guys been playing at all for the past week?
I've been making progress at GoldenEye achievements.
Nice.
There's like 2 paths. One is trying to play it on hard, which finally broke me last night. I tried one mission for 2 hours straight, And I finally had to bump
Which
it
one?
down.
Which one?
Silo, which you have
Okay.
like 7 minutes, and there's so many bad guys. It's not fair. I call them bad guys. It's not fair. So it's so hard. But I bumped it down to normal and made progress. The other thing that's legitimately fun is then there's speedrun achievements. And I looked up. There's like an exploit you can do if you change your movement controls to D-pad. If you hold like 2 inputs up and like right, it registers it as like double the speed. So now when I play GoldenEye, I am diagonally running so fast that enemies can't shoot me that it's like it feels like I'm hacking. And it's when you get those, I'm getting achievements that like 0.5%, like 0.05% people have. So every achievement is a diamond. I feel so cool. Like I've never like rinsed or speedrun a game that wasn't like Tony Hawk before, and it's like it's also what helped me is I found on archive.org someone uploaded the 1997 Nintendo Power Player's Choice Guide.
Yes.
So I'm on my monitor as I'm playing GoldenEye. I have this like player's tips. Did you know here James Bond always likes to duck and cover? Like it's stuff like that. Like, but it's legitimately helping. Like these strategy guide maps are so good. Like it's kind of fun. Like I don't know. It's so funny. And my friend who works at Epic is like email or messaging me like, this YouTuber uploaded a GoldenEye speed strat. Check this out. And it's kind of fun. Like, again, it's weird. Like I was obsessed with this game when I was like 7, and now like so many years later, it's like, oh, now I'm like getting it at a higher level. And again, I've never played the objectives. So playing on hard mode, you have like 7 objectives per mission. And it feels like when you try to speedrun a Tony Hawk game where it's like, I'm going to try to get every goal on this 2-minute run. And that's what like speedrunning and playing on a hard is. And it's like I'm kind of like, this is my Elden Ring this year is GoldenEye, like trying to get all the achievements. So I really, really like this game. But the Nintendo Power Guide is what's helping me out.
Nice one.
That's awesome.
Love it. Yeah, I'm the wuss playing System Shock 1 on like this modern thing, and then that remake that's on Xbox, that's on Game Pass, is basically just like an emulation. We actually did a video of it. It'll be up. It should be up by the time this podcast is up. I think I'm putting it up on Thursday, which is tomorrow as time of recording. So if you want to see Frank, who's a big N64 fan and GoldenEye fanboy, go through GoldenEye and show me, somebody who was basically, I think, maybe played 5 minutes of GoldenEye once and doesn't really care about N64 first-person shooter games very much. The two of us played through it. Well, he played through it, and we had a good conversation about PC shooters and console shooters and why this game is so special and all that sort of stuff. So head over to Noclip Crew and check that out. You can also check out Jeremy's terrific Signalis video essay. If you've been listening to the podcast, we're big fans of Signalis, and no bigger is Jeremy Jane, and he put all that passion and knowledge into a great little 25-minute video. Go check that out. I think you can watch that if you've not played Signalis. I think it actually kind of works as a primer, to be honest. So you can go check that out. We're also going to be doing a System Shock run through of that demo. Maybe we should do a couple of these. I feel like I kind of want to see Shadows of Doubt maybe as well. That might be a hard one to do in a short video, though. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it definitely takes a minute to kind of to feel out the mechanics or whatever. Yeah, that might be interesting to just do a run, though. Now that I know the lay of the land, I could just skip the tutorial.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, let's think about that as well. That might be a good one to do. We will have the second episode of Hyper Light development up for early access people, I believe, on Friday. The episode will be going live next week. 35-minute long, second episode of that series, all about Hyper Light Breaker. We are doing a documentary on that game. It is not even in early access yet. This is pre-development. In fact, there hasn't even been gameplay shown of this game yet, and we're on our second episode of the series. This one's very interesting. I can't get into too much detail ahead of the video going out, but it basically talks about a fairly substantial change that game undertook over the last 6 months of 2022 that really sort of basically changed genre for that project. How they did it technically, how they sort of did it within the team, how they dealt with a lot of production issues as a result, and as a result of COVID and everything else. And we even talked to their publisher, Gearbox, about what it was like when they found out that the game was getting such a big change. So that whole video will be up next Monday. If you're a patron of Noclip, you can check that out over the weekend. The Dwarf Fortress and Choo Choo Charles shoot was meant to happen this week, but on Sunday night, as I was going to bed, I was going to wake up the next morning and drive, I got word that some of our interviewees were not feeling good and that there was something bouncing around between them. It's not COVID, but they had something, and so we were like, all right, let's maybe not do it next week. Can we push it back a couple of weeks? So that's what we're doing. We're going to record instead either the end of February or early March for that, and also the Choo Choo Charles interview. But it's great. Every time this thing happens, it's been postponed twice now, and every time it happens, I go through another round of research and also come up with a bunch of ideas and email them ahead. So we're actually going to we'll have much better videos as a result, with more people and even family members involved now, because we've been talking about it for so long. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. We also have a shoot lined up in March for another one of our favorite games of 2022. So check your eyes. Check your eyes.
Check your eyes. Make sure your eyes are good before you watch this. Yeah, that's what my optician said. Is that what an eye doctor is called?
I think so.
I haven't seen
We've got
one.
subtitles too, so you can just listen to it that way as well. We don't have descriptive subtitles. I think that's a different thing. If you need those, but we used to have loads of languages, but then YouTube fucking ruined that. They got rid of that system, which. Anyway, we can stream video in 4K for free, so I'm not going to complain that much. Support the podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to all of our bonus episodes over on patreon.com/Noclip. And those games, once again, we talked about today: Shadows of Doubt, Dark and Darker, Radio the Universe, System Shock, and of course, Pizza Tower. If you play console games, apologies for this week's podcast. Very, very PC-centric. Frank, what are you doing with the rest of your day? It's comic day, right?
Yeah, I did go to the comic shop. I got, oh my God, can I show you one thing I got?
Yeah, show us. Yeah, show
bust
us.
it out.
Yeah. If you're watching the video version over on youtube.com/Noclip podcast, you can see this already, but we'll give you a description. Audio listeners.
We'll break it down.
I've been hungry to play Midnight Suns. Jesse on the team has been obsessed with it. I finally tracked down a copy of Weapon X, the 1994 Wolverine.
Whoa.
Dude, it is so badass.
Is he naked?
Yeah, dude, yeah, he gets experimented on. The art of of 90s X-Men is so just over the top, colorful and pink and blue, and it's like, this is so rad.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, the comic shop I go to, Nuclear Comics, any trade-ins they get, they sell at half price. So this was $6, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Dude.
Very sick.
Dude, I got an Asus monitor at Goodwill yesterday for $25.
Oh my God.
I also picked up this British comic, a run of Judge Dredd by Disley, this artist. But this cover, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I don't know if it is
look at this.
so sick.
That's Judge Dredd. There's a lady's butt. There's some skulls. It's got everything you need.
It's the best. He was also in Call of Duty Cold War, so it always runs.
Judge Dredd was?
Yeah, Judge Dredd was in Call of Duty Cold War, which is why I'm the only who else cares about Judge Dredd?
I can't think of a award that is less appropriate for Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
He is literally judge, jury, and executioner, and the Cold War is a war in which no shots were fired.
Yeah, he did a lot of diplomacy. He was on the phone with Gorbachev. And...
The other three I got Ghost Rider. This Ghost Rider is also in Midnight Suns. The current Ghost Rider is so cheesy, but I love it. Also cheesy. Spawn issue 338. We're still doing this.
He's a big Spawn fan.
Love it. And then Wesley Snipes has a new comic book called The Exiled.
What?
Oh my God!
What?
Holy
what?
shit!
I could not pass this up. So Wesley Snipes.
Did he draw it while he was in prison?
Right, I'm sure the whole thing is just him fighting the IRS. He's no good. I don't know. So I'll research it. I'll let you know. But it's I love vanity projects. Keanu Reeves it's not Blade, but it's Blade. Who Blade is also at Midnight Suns. But I love vanity comics. Keanu Reeves actually did a comic last year called Berserker that's actually incredible. But I have to see what that is. But thank you for letting me show off my comics. That was
of course, dude. Those are cool.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, shout out to Wesley Snipes. That's pretty badass. Yeah. Is there a story about him going to? I always feel like white collar criminals who are usually white don't usually go to jail for tax evasion, but then prominent black man does. I wonder if there's, I don't know. There's probably some well-written articles about that.
Yeah, because I think MC Hammer got really screwed also with bankruptcy and tax stuff in the 80s. I forget, yeah.
Watch your money, everyone. If you're making that cash, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a famous recording artist, just be careful about what you do with your
Pay your
money.
taxes.
Or Sports Star.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes. Or make sure whoever's meant to be paying your taxes is paying your taxes.
True.
Because that's probably how a lot of these people get fucked as well. That's a podcast. Video games coming out. Yep. Imagine that. We did it. If you care about, if you want to hear about Hogwarts, none of us have played it and probably not going to. We did do a podcast about it about 4 weeks ago where we predicted this exact scenario.
Yes,
we literally talked about what would happen, not about the game, but who would review it and all that sort of stuff. So, but we're just happy to talk about the games we played. Next Fest is fucking taking up all my rest of my week. I just need to, because it's every game I've played on the demo has been amazing so far. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to just keep going through these.
There's before we close out the podcast, I want someone to read the name of it. I didn't play this game, but I'm going to post it in the chat on our recording service here. Danny, will you read the name of this game for me?
Oh my god. Humanity?
Humanity. It is a zombie game, but the name of it is the word humanity, but they changed the Y to an uppercase Z.
An uppercase
and
Z.
I every time I see it, I see humanists. And I just wanted to give it a shout out because I didn't play it, but that name is like, I haven't stopped thinking about it for like 12 hours.
If they hadn't capitalized the Z, I would have said, if because it had the Z, it was like, humanists.
Yeah,
it
would have come off as like a Jewish surname if they left the Z.
Humanists,
Joe Humanits.
Yeah,
Joe Humanits, attorney at law.
The humanists.
Yeah,
the Humanists. I feel this is an interesting. This kind of looks like Commandos. The old Commandos.
Co-op top-down open world survival game with zombies is how they described it.
They finally made one of those, did they?
I downloaded a game on Steam Fest called Zombie Survivors, which it's so dumb,
kidding, really?
but I
That's
liked
funny.
it. I liked it. I was
That's
like, damn,
funny.
this
That's
is
funny.
good. This is good.
Hell yeah.
I feel like that's kind of I don't know. Vampire Survivors is such a. Have you seen the trailer? The latest trailer they put out.
Mm-mm.
They are whoever does their trailers is like on meth. It is just like they are absolutely insane. Their trailers. They just did a trailer for their new mode, which looks like it's some sort of Tetris or the Sonic 2 bonus levels where you're on like the ball. You're like it's like a circular world. It looks like that in the back. I can't even tell if that's the game or if that's just what they put in the trailer. It's just complete nonsense. And they usually have this like 8-bit like orchestral Bach music or Beethoven. Da, 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 da. It's just absolute nonsense. Anyway, our Vampire Survivors documentary coming at you like Cleopatra sometime in the next couple of weeks. Jesse Grasha, who's editing this podcast. Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
He's doing great work editing that one. Or at least I assume he is. I haven't actually seen it. I'm just assuming. But I assume he's doing great work because he does.
He always does.
That's the podcast, folks. Episode 112. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.